well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards, and I am glad that you joined us on the program today. Apologies for the technical issues on Wednesday. Not sure what happened. Did a show. Apparently, halfway through, my audio decided, you know what, we're going to take a break. So, hopefully, we are back with all of the glitches and the technical gremlins resolved. Glad to be with you and glad that you're with me here. We're going to be talking today about smart guns. That's right. I remember when a few months ago when I was out in Las Vegas at the annual Shooting, Hunting, Outdoor Trade Show, the first one held since 2020, there were a number of smart gun companies that were displaying their wares. Lodestar Firearms was one of them. They had a very highly publicized fail of their product when the gun did not fire during a demonstration shortly before SHOT Show. Smart Guns with a Z was another company that I spoke with. They're based out of Wichita. And then today, well, before I move on here from SHOT Show, so the whole idea was that, okay, these smart guns are now ready to come to market. They'll be on your store shelves soon. I mean, it's, getting close to June here. The year's almost halfway over. And so far, the smart guns haven't shown up. But the companies are still getting more funding for these products that are not quite ready for prime time. Yeah, Axios with the headline today, Startup raises $17 million to develop a smart gun. Now, here's the thing. This company called BioFire has actually been around for 6 years now, 2016, when the founder, Kai Klepfer, dropped out of MIT with the goal, again, of creating this smart gun. And here we are 6 years later, and the company's around, still getting funded. Just don't have a product on the market yet. And as Axios reports in this glowing report, by the way, they are so excited about the prospect of this smart gun. They write, quote, even if you're someone who decries firearms proliferation and supports stricter gun control, this is an innovation that should be welcomed, which, by the way, it's been primarily gun control supporters who've been really pushing the idea of smart guns. I don't know why Axios felt the need to say, "Hey, listen, even if you're in favor of more gun control, you should be okay with this one," because that really is who's been driving this debate for 30 plus years now. Now, Axios also quoted Klepfer, the CEO of BioFire. He says, "I see firearm ownership continuing to be part of American culture for the foreseeable future. The issue has become so politicized that really nothing is being done, even for things that shouldn't be political in any way, like kids getting a hold of guns. A smart gun isn't a cure-all, but we do think that we can have an immediate and substantial impact." Why? I think is a fair question to ask. Why? I imagine that Klepfer would say, well, because if these products are available, then, more gun owners are going to purchase them. They won't have their guns just, able to be accessed by anybody and everybody. To which I would argue, if you are truly concerned about unauthorized access to your firearms, don't you already have other options beyond a smart gun that you could avail yourselves of? I mean, couldn't you have a safe or even a cable lock? So I don't really buy the idea that there's this vast untapped market out there for smart guns, I guess from people who currently own guns but don't feel that they're secure enough and apparently have never heard of gun safes. I mean, look, even if you like the idea of biometric technology or RFID technology, you can get safes that are equipped with that same technology. So I really don't. I don't know. I just the idea that as soon as these products come to market, boy, they're going to be instantaneously popular. I just don't see it. Klepfer, as I mentioned, who dropped out of MIT to start this company, says that the gun is being beta tested right now with law enforcement and firearms experts. Says that it doesn't have any RFID or other wireless capabilities that could turn off prospective buyers. Well, listen, any smart gun, quote unquote, is going to have technology that's going to turn off a prospective buyer, because basically you've got two ways to go about turning a quote unquote dumb gun into a smart gun. You can use the RFID technology, which typically requires a wearable, right? So Smart Guns with a G, for example, that company, you've got to wear a ring on your finger. And if you don't have the ring on your finger, the gun doesn't work. So you can't shoot offhand, for instance, right? If you lose the wearable, you're out of luck there too. So what BioFire is doing is a biometric gun, right? Basically a fingerprint reader, which has its own drawbacks. I don't know if you've ever tried to open up your smartphone when it's raining, or maybe your hands are just sweaty. I don't even bother. Honestly, I don't use my touch screen on my phone. I just use my access code every time. And even then, sometimes I have trouble. So the idea that, a biometric fingerprint reader is going to be 100% reliable, that's just not been my experience with using that technology in the past and other applications. It also means you can't wear a glove. So, if you're cold for whatever reason, there are other drawbacks. Again, with both of these technologies, there are drawbacks. There are limitations, which the smart gun developers honestly don't really want to talk too much about. But guess it doesn't matter to the investors, because they just poured $17 million more into this 6-year-old company that is still in beta testing for their firearm. I mean, I don't want to give Klepfer too much grief over that. As I mentioned, I don't think any of these smart gun companies that were displaying their wares at SHOT Show have actually brought a product to market yet. Lodestar Firearms, for example, they're still out there pushing their product. They actually spoke with WSB in Atlanta and took one of the reporters out to the range. The story just came up yesterday, I think it was. Here's the headline. Company says their smart gun is, quote, going to save lives. Not all activists on board yet. Yeah, and so Lodestar, according to Ginger Chandler, who's the co-founder and chief financial officer, says that you can authenticate the Lodestar, you can activate, I guess, the Lodestar gun in 3 different ways. You can use an app on the phone via Bluetooth, which sounds completely impractical if you need to use a fireman's self-defense. Hey, hang on a second. Hang on. Hey, quit coming through my window. Quit coming through my window. I'm trying to use the app. I don't have a Bluetooth connection. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Then you could do a pin pad on the front of the grip that unlocks the gun. Or it also locks it too. Or you can use a fingerprint. So they too do not use RFID technology. They're using a biometric technology to unlock the firearm. The good news for Lodestar is that they apparently did not have any issues with the gun clicking instead of going bang when they took this WSB reporter out to the range. So that's good. That's a slight improvement. But WSB did talk to some folks who, like me, are hesitant, I guess it's fair to say, about the utility of a smart gun product. John Henry, who's the executive director of Georgia Carry, says it's going to be powered by a chip and a battery. Batteries go. They fail all the time. He says that smart guns may not be so smart when it comes to reliable self-defense. Quote, I don't like that you have to go through any other mechanism other than pointing and pulling the trigger. WSB also points out that the National Rifle Association does not oppose the development or sale of smart guns, but added that they oppose laws that seek to mandate that smart guns be the only guns available, which the CEO of Lodestar says he agrees with. Says in terms of mandates, we're against them. The head of Smart Guns with a Z told me the same thing when I spoke to him at SHOT Show back in January. And instead, they seem to be. I think these companies are actually working on a couple of different business models. Let's take their statement at face value that they're not interested in mandates requiring people to only purchase smart guns. I'm not sure that I actually believe that, but let's just take that statement at face value. Okay, you don't support that. One of the ways it seems these companies are trying to make money is by getting police agencies to adopt quote unquote smart guns, which to date, by the way, we haven't seen happen, right? BioFire, smart guns, and I believe even Lodestar says that they are beta testing their guns with law enforcement groups. But I am not aware of any agency that has come out and said, hey, listen, after months of using this product, we are sold. All of our officers are going to ditch their dumb guns. They're going to start carrying smart guns instead. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen from a, uber progressive locale, maybe San Francisco, maybe Seattle, Washington, Madison, Wisconsin. But again, I think you're going to see objections on the part of rank and file law enforcement. If a department comes out and says, listen, we're switching to a smart gun, I think you're going to have the same concerns about reliability that most other gun owners have. I won't say every other gun owner, but that most gun owners have. Because John Henry is right. When you need to use a firearm in self-defense, you really don't want any additional points of failure. And that's an inherent part of having a smart gun, is that there is an additional point of failure. And the manufacturer can say, well, but it's safe, it's reliable, it's not going to, okay. Maybe that's the case 99.9% of the time. But again, it's an additional point of failure. We already, as gun owners, have to factor in things like, our guns jamming or a misfire, things of that nature. This is yet another thing to concern yourself about that you don't have to concern yourself about. Now look, as a gun owner, I am all in favor of responsible storage of firearms. I'm not a fan of storage mandates. I don't think that there is a one-size-fits-all policy, but if you have young kids in your home, if you have teenagers in your home and they bring friends around and you don't know or trust all of those friends, I think it's a wise idea to ensure that there's no unauthorized access to your firearm. But again, I don't see myself ever buying a quote unquote smart gun because I don't see the benefit, quite honestly. In terms of storing my firearms, I can do that so that no unauthorized individuals have access to them. And I can still access them readily for self-defense if necessary. And I don't, again, have to worry about that failure point of what happens if my fingers are sweaty because somebody's breaking into my home. What happens if I can't find my ring? Or what happens if I get shot and I have to shoot offhand? Those are all questions that, listen, they don't rise up on a daily basis. But when you're considering a firearm for self-defense, all of a sudden those questions matter. Right now, though, they're all still moot points because despite the repeated statements by these smart gun companies that, we're coming, always seems to be just a few months away, right? All right, turning our attention now to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We're going to start there with a story out of CWB Chicago. Listen, I rely on this website probably more than I should, but I got to tell you, and I'm not being paid to say this, it's not a paid endorsement. I don't even know who runs CWB Chicago, but if you are a Chicago resident, if you're interested in what's going on with violent crime, follow this website. Kick in a couple bucks to them every now and then, because they do great reporting on what's going on in the Windy City with the crumbling criminal justice system. Take a look at this headline. Gang leader who got $1,000 bail for a stolen gun 4 days after he got out of federal prison is a suspect in a mass shooting, according to Chicago police. And it wasn't just a random Chicago police officer either. It was actually Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown who spoke out against this guy. Sergio Barron is the alleged gang member's name. And the mass shooting took place Tuesday afternoon. According to David Brown, it's part of a weeks-long gang war that's been fueled by Sergio Barron, who, again, only had to cough up $1,000 to get out of jail for a felony gun case back in March, which was 4 days after he was released from federal prison. David Brown says Barron is, quote, driving the violence in the back of the yards neighborhood as retaliation for his brother being murdered last month. Brown says when it comes to the March arrest of Barron, quote, our officers did their job. They took a gun off the street from a felon who had a violent history. That felon got a cash bond. So back in 2017, Sergio Barron got an 8-year sentence for aggravated discharge of a firearm and aggravated assault of a police officer. He allegedly shot a gun into an occupied car, and then when officers responded, he pointed the gun at them. So 8-year sentence, 2017. You can do the math. It's not been 8 years, but he was released on federal parole on March 24th. And according to Assistant State's Attorney Lucas Kalianatsis, when he appeared in Cook County Court, it was just 4 days after he was released from custody because police allegedly found a loaded and stolen gun in his car a block away from where the shooting this past Tuesday occurred. According to the state's attorney, police saw Barron recklessly driving down the street. When police found the gun between the driver's seat and the center console, he admitted to having the gun for personal protection. Prosecutors charged him with unlawful use of a weapon by a felon as well as possession of a controlled substance. And then, again, shows up in bond court. And Judge Mariam Ahmad, who knew, by the way, about the previous federal prison sentence, who knew about the fact that he had been released on federal parole 4 days prior, said that he could go home as long as he turned over $1,000, which was 10% of his $10,000 bail. CWB Chicago says, according to court records, that's the exact amount that his public defender said he could afford. Yeah. So the judge apparently gave Mr. Barron a deal. Police Superintendent David Brown said, quote, the risk assessment on violent offenders by our judges needs to get better. And he says the Chicago Police Department is trying to revoke Barron's bond and, quote, to get him back in custody. Okay. But in the meantime, if you live in Chicago, you can't count on the court system to keep you safe. You can't count on city officials to keep you safe. Your safety, and this goes for all of us, quite frankly, not just those of us who live in Chicago, although the need for self-defense, I think, is particularly acute in the Windy City these days. Ultimately, your safety is your responsibility. As we learned once again this morning in a case out of Philadelphia, where a man shot and killed a would-be robber while he was standing in front of his home. This was Wednesday night. According to police, the victim in question was standing outside of his house, smoking a cigarette. Guy pedals up to him on a bicycle and says, hey, this is a robbery. Words to that effect. Points a gun at the guy. As it turns out, the would-be victim was a concealed carry holder and did have his firearm on him. And so when the robber pointed a gun at him, he drew his own firearm, fired a shot, striking the robber. Police say it appears that the robber got off a couple of rounds of his own, neither one of which hit his intended victim. The robber then collapsed on the street. The would-be victim called 911, reported what was going on. Police showed up. He remained on scene. Has been described as being cooperative, is a licensed concealed carry holder. All indications are this is an act of self-defense. I wrote a piece about this at BearingArms.com as well, talking about the rise in violent crime in Philadelphia, what police are doing to try to bring this violence down. But again, what we all need to be aware of in terms of our own personal safety. Now, finally today, our good deed of the day from the state of Georgia, Woodstock, Georgia, where a mom calls an off-duty officer her child's guardian angel after coming to the rescue of this 2-year-old boy. Officer Baron Dixon was off the clock when this little boy needed some help. According to the local media, Fox 5 in Atlanta, Yakima Harris, who is this little boy's mom, said that she had picked up her son Messiah from daycare. And when he got home, he started vomiting. She thought, maybe just, a stomach bug, maybe he ate something. And she thought he was feeling better. Like maybe it was just, something weird. But then as he's playing, she said he just started laying down. She thought he was taking a nap, and she realized he wasn't breathing. So she called 911. Officer Dixon, at this point, was off the clock. He was driving home when the call came in. 2-year-old was not breathing. He knew that he was right near where this call was coming from and that he'd be the first person to get there. So on the clock, off the clock, doesn't matter. He was able to get there and actually helped save the life of this child. Now, Yakima Harris says that they don't know what exactly happened to her son, Messiah. Doctors are continuing to do tests, but they were, again, thanks to Officer Dixon's fast response, able to get him breathing again. And Yakima Harris calls Baron Dixon her son's guardian angel. So in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Officer Baron Dixon there in Woodstock, Georgia, we thank you very much for your very good deed. That is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you, as always, for being a part of the program. And I do have a little bit of good personal news. I know that a lot of you are following along with my wife, Miss E's fight with cancer. She was supposed to start another round of treatment today, but she got some good news from her oncologist. She had a biopsy done recently, and things that they thought were cancer were not. So she gets to go another couple of months before she might have to resume treatment again, which is great news. So please continue to keep her in your thoughts and prayers if you are the praying kind. I appreciate them very, very much. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Until then, be well, be safe, be free.